No, I sell my own.
Ooh, God. And this man, they're the stickers. All right, hold on. And now I'm going to share this to my personal profile. So that's going to take a
Oh my
minute.
god, it's so freaking cold.
It is so cold. It's like, and we're probably going to lose power because, we're.
Oh, I heard you guys are gonna get hit with a bad storm.
Yeah, and like we have our own little microclimate up here on top of the cliff. So like we don't really know what's going to happen. I don't know, Saira, you have no idea. Like it is so like we'll be at the top of the hill, right? And we're like, oh man, like the wind is crazy. There's, there's snow everywhere. Everything's psycho. And then we'll go down the hill and it's totally fine. Like it's literally like 150 feet from where we're at. It's fine.
Interesting.
Well, because we're on top of a cliff on the ocean, right? We're the barrier for just about everybody, right?
You're right.
Okay, so there we go. I'm showing this to my personal profile, the S&M Show. Come join us. There we go. This time I'm actually going to make sure it posts, whereas last time I actually went to share it and I pressed the buttons and then I just never actually shared it. So it's like, well, and I was impressed. We had so many viewers just by not even, like, I hadn't even shared it on my personal profile. So I was like, that's cool. Hey, Paula. Hi, LaFern. Good to see you guys. Hey, hey. Grand Rising, LaFern. Saira was just showing us her nail polish. She did, oh, did you see what I did to mine? Yeah, I ripped those nail polish. I ripped it off.
It looked gorgeous.
Looked amazing. Saira, I could literally feel, like, I felt like something was stabbing into my nails. Like, I could just feel the texture. It was so crazy. And I was like, you know what? This isn't for me anymore. Like, I'm just too sensitive to, like, textures and tactile things. So I just was like, I think that my days of wearing, press-on nails are over.
I struggle because I can't type like this where you'd have to type to the
I've seen people type like that with the long nails and they're like, and I'm like, how are you doing that?
I can't do it. It's some kind of magic. I can't do it.
Oh, I can't do that either. So I moved you can see that I moved my camera around because, the desk is now here because I used to have to like lean because I'm right-handed. So like before the camera was here and the computer was over here. So I'd have to like do this to move it around. So I had to do it so that the right-hand side would be here.
Why isn't everything just straight on in front of you?
Huh?
Why do you have it off to the side so you're constantly looking off camera?
Well, so because because I want the wall to be behind me.
So put the computer in front of you and then the wall will be behind you.
So the camera is here. So if I put the computer in front of me, I need a desk here. Okay? I need a desk here. This is the bed.
So you're not sitting in front of a desk?
The desk is over here.
So what are you... So you're just sitting facing out?
I'm facing a camera. Yeah, I'm just sitting facing a camera.
Oh my god, that is super weird.
Like the computer is here and the camera is here and the mic is over here. So like this is what I'm doing. I had no idea. Saira's really struggling with this. I'm gonna look at comments while she's struggling. Oh, we're gonna tell you who's being mean. Did you see my comment on how to pop your sternum? Oh, I did end up popping my sternum. Yeah, Paula, thank you. I ended up getting it popped. It was yesterday, Saira.
I sit like this in the morning and I just keep stretching into it and then all of a sudden it goes.
Oh,
it sounds like there's an alien ripping out of my body.
You're right. You can barely hear Saira. Thanks for letting me know. Saira, speak.
Hello,
Yeah,
my
okay,
name
there
is
you go.
Saira.
You can hear Saira fine now. Okay, I fixed it. Thank you so much, Paula. Thanks for letting me know. LaFern says she doesn't know how to wipe with long nails. Like, how does anybody wipe with long nails?
Without gouging yourself? Yeah, absolutely. That's when you invest in a bidet. Just
Christy
FYI.
thinks it's weird to sit sideways. We're having so many different conversations right now. So many different conversations.
Yeah, it is weird. I agree. Christy, you and I, same page.
Ashley just ditched her acrylics. I just, it is weird to sit sideways. You're not wrong. I think it's really weird. So here's the thing. When I talked to Alex today, I'm thinking that because the space is so little, we could do like an L-shaped desk, but like a small L, right? Like a really small L, so that I can put the camera and stuff right here, and I can type like this. But it's just a matter of like figuring it out, and so I'm still figuring this space out. I feel like I'm gonna figure out my background for the rest of my freaking life.
Well, look, I've been doing this at my house for how long? How many times have I redone my backdrop? This is the first time. That's why I laugh so much when you're like, you need to replace that picture of the shoes. Cause I'm like, you don't understand how many iterations I've already gone through. Like, this is it till I die. Like, that's it.
Well, I remember when you were selling, LuLaRoe, like the background for like when we were trying to like figure out the background, like for the first year alone, we did like 400. There were so many. Oh my God.
It's a lot. And you know why? It's because you're really seeing it reflected back at you. Yeah. And so even if it's behind you, and it's so important that the space that you see reflected back brings you whatever energy you need to be successful, right? So for me, like this, like it's kind of funny because when I do like my professional meetings and I have this behind me, I'm like, I wonder if these people look at this and are like, did we hire like a toddler to do like our
Dude, I have
my
my blue mohawk and this, and I also am like, you know what? And I I feel like
I'm like, my talent will just have to speak for itself.
It's just my work has to speak for my first, but that's always how I've been, right? Like that was something that always bothered me years ago, is that like when I worked at the hospitals and like they told me I couldn't wear jeans, and I'm like, I don't understand how me wearing jeans influences my ability to work. Like, let me know why I need a dress code.
Yeah. I'm an adult. Like, I should be able to dress however I want.
It made
like,
me really
I'm not
mad.
my boobs hanging out.
And you know what? If you did, who cares? You're still really good at doing your job. Well, no, dude, because no. When you worked at the hospitals, you wore some really tight clothes, and like you had a
I meant literally hanging out.
Well, I don't think you're gonna have that is actually like against the law. Like it's not obscene.
That's
really.
what I meant literally.
Yeah, no, I mean that's against the law. Like unless you're breastfeeding, in which case it's totally fine, because that's totally fine. But what I mean is that you don't want to go to work with your boobs hanging out.
Yeah, exactly.
I love my L-shaped desk, and I never understood that either. Yeah, Ashley didn't understand it. It drove me crazy. And that's the thing. Anne likes to put on makeup and feel more human. And I think that that's amazing, right? But I think that we should all be allowed to do whatever we want. And I don't think that should reflect on, like, whether or not I'm good at my job, right? Because that was the reason why I didn't get promoted one time, was because I lacked gravitas. I lacked seriousness. And they didn't think that people would take me seriously. And I'm like, dude, I'm really good at my job. That should be enough for them to take me seriously. But I was trying to live in a world that didn't exist. I wanted to be in the world that I wished existed.
Let's talk about our topic.
Okay, so let's talk about our topic. So Saira has something to know. I'm gonna introduce this. So I made the post, guys. You saw the post yesterday. Ashley started the conversation today by asking who was mean. So today we want to talk about. This is something that Saira and I have been talking about the last couple of days, and we weren't sure whether we were actually going to talk about it or not, because it is very, very painful for Saira, or I don't know if it's painful for her now. It was yesterday, but we don't know. Like, things change, hairstyles change. So first, Saira, why don't you tell us what happened?
So first of all, oh my God. So Butch and I are renovating the house, as you know, and it's like, first of all, we bought this house. This house was like beautiful, right? Like, I mean, I will say, like, I mean, it was beautiful. We fell in love with it. It was amazing, right? Best view in town. So as we lived here for longer and longer, we started to notice things like, oh, wow, like that's weird. You know, why is this happening? Why is the floor dipping? Why is there a leak, right? So little thing, why is it so cold in the house? So we started to find, like, even though the house on the surface looked really pretty, there was a lot of things that were under the walls, kind of like what you see in Property Brothers, that had to be fixed. We just couldn't afford to hire somebody to come in and do all this stuff. And Butch is so gifted. He was like, I can do it all. The only thing he didn't do was the floors. Anyway, so we start with this renovation, right? We couldn't go to Turks and Caicos for our vacation because, you know, COVID. So we decided, let's invest that money into renovating the house. We found so much shit. We had to dig up our entire yard because there was like a pipe that was leaking. We've replaced all that, but like it was a lot of work.
You had a nest of ants in the back. Oh, yeah. So there was a nest of ants in the entire wall. Tell them.
We replaced all the windows in the house because they were all like from the 60s. So they were really, really old. So we replaced every window. Butch and his dad did it themselves. And it's not easy to replace windows. It's a lot of work. So they replaced all the windows before winter came. And when they cut out Eliza's, all of a sudden ants just started pouring out of the sill, like pouring. Butch said it was like, he's like, it was like an ice cream machine that had too much pressure and it just spewed out. So he ripped off the entire corner of the house, treated it with all the ant killer, whatever, rebuilt it. So now it's like perfect, right? Like solid, new wood, insulation. Like he did such a killer job, but then snow came. So he didn't want to put up siding until the spring came. It was nice and dry. He was like, we're just going to leave it exposed until we can go ahead and like re-side it once the summer comes. Great. But we have shit everywhere. And honestly, yesterday I was looking around. I'm like, it's not even that bad, right? We have a trailer in the back that's hidden, tucked behind the trees, that has, some trash in it. We have covered barrels. Everything's covered. We have a kitchen that we ripped out the cabinets of, and we have no room to reinstall it into the shed yet because everything's full. We haven't had a chance to empty the basement yet again. So we have a lot of moving pieces. So it's just sitting out there. And then we have a burn pile. The burn pile used to be covered by all the brush, like because the trees cover our yard. But now the trees have shed so that you can see kind of more in than you normally would. So you can see the burn pile, right? It's branches and a couple like windows and like, wood, things like that, things you can burn. Well, this woman takes it upon herself, or person, whatever, takes it upon themselves to leave a letter in our mailbox the other day to tell us that we were a blemish on the town, that our home used to be so beautiful and now we have let it fall into such disrepair and we should be ashamed. That we have toys strewn across our lawn. Okay, we don't actually, but whatever. One time we had one float and a bike. I have kids. Then they said, we are an insult to other homeowners in our town that take pride and are serious about home ownership.
Pride of ownership. That line, pride of ownership.
Yep. And that I should work harder to fix the mess I've made of what was once a beautiful home, to be considerate to our neighbors.
Because this person drives by the house every day,
right,
and is horrified by what they see, and the fact that she is insulting the properties that she abuts.
Yeah. Now, funny story about our house, right? We are a corner lot, and we have 3 acres, 3.5, whatever. So it's like 3.5. So there's a lot of space between our property and our neighbors, right? It's not like we abut anybody. Like our yard, like in order to get to the part we share with a neighbor, you'd have to go like 100 feet. Like it's far. So we're not out that far. Like everything is around our own like immediate house. So I get this letter, and honestly, like I felt like I had been kicked in the face, because you guys, I mean, everyone who's following me knows we have busted our asses on this house this year. And the inside, honestly, even Minessa will tell you, like, even just looking at the pictures of the house, you can feel that the energy in the house has changed.
God,
like
it's so different. I'm actually going to pause really quick because, like, speaking energetically, like, I told Saira, like, I've told her for years, I was like, Saira, your house feels like it hurts. Like, your house feels weird. There's something about the house that is like, and I could feel it when I walked in. Like, if you're an empath, you know what I'm talking about. And I think it had a huge impact on how you were feeling overall, because the second...
for sure.
There were a few things that they did, and then she showed me a picture of the house, right? So, like, she was working on things, but there was a certain moment where she showed me a picture of the house that something had clearly changed, and I think the ants may have had a lot to do with it, like, but I don't know what it was, because there was mold, but whatever it was, when I looked at the picture of the house that you sent me, like, about 6 months ago or 4 months ago, I could feel the energy of the house was different. Like, the house was alive, and it felt healthy, and it felt like it felt good. You know, and like I told her that. I said, dude, whatever you did to the house cleansed the energy. Whatever was there before is gone now. You've replaced it with really, really good energy.
Yeah. I mean, like, I'm just turning on the volume because I want to be able to see comments myself too. And I have my phone. So Minessa even at one point had said to me, like, this was a couple of years ago, she's like, maybe we should sage your house. You know, like maybe we saying that. And I even agreed with her, because like you could tell there was a darkness here, right? There was definitely like an energy that was a energy that took away as opposed to added. Yeah. And it was exhausting to be in this space sometimes. So anyway, so we have busted our asses. Like if you look at our house now, we redid the floors, we redid the windows, we added insulation, we painted, we've added plants, pictures. I mean, honestly, like my home now, like when I walk inside, I feel, oh, home sweet home. Like I finally feel that home sweet home feeling. So to get that message, and the thing is that she didn't tell me anything I didn't already know. Every time I drive into my house, I'm like, oh, and it bothers Butch too. Like he's always like, dude, we have so much shit to get done outside, but it's fucking winter. Okay. It's like cold. The ground is like slushy. This is not the time to do that kind of work. Like someone will get hurt. You just don't do that kind of work in the winter. So we have no choice. We have to wait until summer and spring get here in order to take on the next chapter. Anyway, what this woman didn't know, right? And maybe that was her intention. Maybe she did know that this person was that I was bullied relentlessly in high school. And it brought back so many feelings of shame and self-loathing and disappointment. And I all these feelings started swirling, right? Like, and it felt like a little tornado going on inside me. And Butch came in and he was more mad that I was wounded, right? So, and he's very protective of me. And so he was just like, he was so angry. Because for him, he was like, this is my person, and somebody hurt my person, right? And he was like, "Urgh." So he's hugging me and he's like, baby, it's okay. He's like, you know, you've worked so hard, like everything's gonna be fine. He's like, I will take care of it. You don't need to worry about this, right? So like, but I'm crying, I'm so upset. But I was like, you know what? I have a great local community, and I'm gonna post about this because I feel like people should know that when you say something to someone, even if the words to you might make you feel better because you're like pissed or you get it off your chest, you don't know somebody else's personal situation. You don't know that person could be depressed or, you know, sad, unable to talk to people, already have self-esteem issues, be chronically ill, right? Right. You don't know what their life story is. And those words are literally weapons that you're using against somebody. And Minessa is the one who actually, I think, articulated what I was feeling, like I couldn't put words to it, but what she had said to me was, she was like, just think the trouble this person went to, right? It wasn't like, you know, she walked by and saw you and said, hey, you know, you got some trash in your yard, or, you know, you got a piece of wood lying here. No, it was somebody like went out of their way to witness something, go home, write a letter, print it, fold it, put it in an envelope, write my address on it, drive back and put it in my mailbox. Like, this was
even more than that. They had to remember the drive from you. Because how often do you remember something from like, oh, I got to tell that person.
Oh my God. I can't remember.
They literally had to hold that in their memory. They had to go home, open up their computer, type it up, and then how often do you forget something when you're leaving the house, right? Always. So the amount of effort that it took for this person to do this is significant.
Oh, yeah. I mean, this was like somebody really wanted to hurt me, right? So I posted in my town. I didn't post the letter. I just shared my experience. And I shared the fact that, look, let me tell you about my life, right? I have 2 kids that I homeschool. I have a teenager in high school. My middle child is really struggling. She has a really hard time. We are not the best at homeschooling. I'm renovating my house. I run 3 businesses. I'm constantly working. My husband and I do everything ourselves because we can't afford to hire people to come in and do stuff for us. I suffer from depression. I have chronic illness. I'm always tired. Some days for me to just remember to feed myself is a miracle. Like, my life is wonderful, but it is not easy, right? And that's fine. And most days, that's okay. But like, every day I have to choose what I'm not going to get done because I have other things I need to get done, right? Like, every day I have to choose because we can't do everything. There's too many demands on our time now. So I posted the story, and I actually said about the person who left me the letter, I was like, you know what? I don't hold any ill will towards anyone because I don't have space for that. I hope that you feel better, but that you can extend some empathy to folks because you really don't know how their personal situation is, what their personal situation, what kind of pain they're in that led to that, right? You don't know the whole story. You just know what you see. And I'm going to pray for you that you find peace, right? Well, guys, my community of women locally, like in my town, it was amazing. The responses that I got were, what can I do to help you? I don't know you. I've never met you, but I've seen your posts. I drive by your house. I think your house is beautiful. If you ever need help, please call me. I will be there. Oh, I got a private message from this other woman. She's like, I host events at my house every month for like local ladies. I'd love to have you come. I'd love to have you visit, and I'd love to meet you. Turns out her husband's Indian. We love the same kind of food. Like, oh yeah.
That's so funny.
So many women who private messaged me, so many women that commented on the post and were like, how can I help you? You didn't deserve that. Even if your yard is a piece of shit, it's your house, your right. You get to do whatever you want. I had other people saying, what kind of stuff can we put around your yard to make it look even worse? Just to piss people off?
I wanted to put up those dancing guys and then a big old sign that says, hey, what do you think of our house now, bitch?
So many people offering support, right? And empathizing and saying, you deserved better. And I realized in that moment how many people are put in a situation where someone else puts them down and they don't have help. They don't know that they can reach out and ask somebody for help. They don't know that they're too ashamed, or they feel too embarrassed, or they don't have anybody, right? And I felt so crushed for those people because I thought that was what I cared about more, was that I am fortunate enough that through my upbringing, through my relationships, through my marriage, my community, my business, my own life philosophies, I have a lot of confidence, even when I'm ashamed, to stand up for myself and say, I'm hurting. I need someone to lift me up right now, right? I'm self-aware enough to do that. But there are a lot of folks out there who don't have that. And if they were the ones who got this letter, I can't even imagine how painful it would have been and how lonely and isolating and the damage that people do to other people, thinking, well, what's the end game? Like, somebody actually said that in the comment in the community. Like, what was the end?
What is the end game? Like, what is the purpose?
Right. She's like, what was the end game? And I thought to myself, I go, that's such an important question, right? Because the way that letter was written, it was only to make me feel bad.
There were no suggestions. It was just telling you how terrible you are.
And everyone else was like, look, if we noticed something, the first thing we would have done would be to come and knock on your door and be like, hey, can we help you? Like, are you guys okay? Like, is there anything we can do for you?
Are you dying?
Right. it would never. This other woman wrote and said, this was so heartbreaking. She was like, my mother was dying of cancer. She goes, a neighbor came over and knocked on her door. She's like, he knew, knocked on the door and yelled at my mother because her car was parked on the yard. She's like, this is years ago. She's like, my mom died. She's like, I still to this day see red when I think about someone making my mother feel that way while she was dying.
I also have to pause you. What is up with the people in Hollis being obsessed with other people parking their cars in?
I know.
Like, I'm just gonna say. So Saira has received, not that like they have a bunch of cars. That you have a huge property and you can park your car wherever the hell you want. So Saira has like big yard and she parks her car in her driveway, and then she has enough cars and enough friends that sometimes people will come and like park their car on the yard. Yeah. And she got a complaint about somebody
like it.
saying and they don't like it. In fact, Butch is like, make sure you're not on the septic. You know, like they're very like, don't do this, right? And so like, and I do it all the time. It drives me crazy. But the thing is like, New Hampshire's motto is live free or die. But everyone seems to be extremely concerned about the cars that are being parked on grass. Like, I don't know what it is, Saira, but there is something wrong with your state about that.
No, because Marlene said the same thing happened to her, and she's in New Jersey. Yeah, I think it's a thing.
It's like, what does it matter if the car is parked on fucking grass or not?
I don't even know. But we won that, right? So they ended up taking us to the town and the town actually sided with us and said, no, it's their property. They can do whatever they want. Like, we're not going to go in there and enforce this. Like, no, it's not happening. But it definitely brought up these emotions in me because, you know, being bullied in high school, and mind you, I actually reconnected with some folks from high school who were bullies back then. And guess what? Nothing has changed. They're still the exact same bullies. And I laughed because I was like, what else did I expect? But so I went in my community and I wasn't going to share the story again, but then I was like, you know what? No, I am going to share it because I feel like people need to know that if you are lonely, you don't know where to go, you don't want to talk to your family about it, you have a place to go. I will be that place. This community will be that place. It's not just about clothes, not just about fashion, not just about earrings. It's about if you need something and you don't know where else to go, please use this place for that. Because everyone should have a Cheers. Everyone should have a place to go where everybody knows your name and everybody's got your back. You know, and that's what I love. Like, I encourage anyone to look for community pages in your area, because it's funny. Minessa was like, oh, everyone. And it's funny because like, that's our habit to do that. But really, it's probably the opposite. Most people are actually very loving and very caring. And it's sad that Minessa and you and I both do this exact same thing. Instead of focusing on the fact that 90% of the population of my town is filled with wonderful people, that 10% sucks all the air out of the room.
They take up a lot of, and they're trying to take up a lot of space. Like, and I think the problem is it's so easy to fall into that place, you know? So like when you told me what happened, right? I was immediately like, oh my God, you come here and I'm going to just cut you, right? Don't talk to my sister like that. No, you know, like in Parenthood, you don't hurt my sister. You know, like that. It's like, I always think of that kid from Parenthood whenever like somebody upsets you. Like, I just feel like that kid with the little, you know, runs on stage.
That was so cute.
Oh my God, it was adorable. So like at first I felt that way, but then like, you know, there's a thing that, you know, that I think happens to you and I for sure, and I'm sure it happens to other people as well, but for you and I know what happens is that our first instinct is obviously bitterness, anger, vengeance, let me murder somebody. But then once we get past that, there's the thing of like, how can I turn this, like, it's very easy for somebody who's in a negative space to come and just bleed that negativity and crap all over all of us, and then let us walk around with that crap all over ourselves. And the truth is you only get dirty playing with pigs in the mud. There's no other, like, if you play in the mud, you're going to get dirty, right? So there's only one other option, and that's to not play in the mud and to disengage from whatever it is that they had, that's their thing, bless them. What can we do to transmute the power, transmute what happened into something else? So, you know, Saira
there were two things I found.
Yeah.
The first one was, don't become the thing you are rallying against. Because I think the first thing I noticed is that even in me, we get defensive and protective of ourselves and our truth. And we, in doing so, become indignant and bullies ourselves.
Yeah.
And so the first thing that I had to really focus on was what good came from this, and hurt people, right?
Ashley just said that. Hurt people, hurt people.
Oh, did she?
Yeah, Ashley said the same thing.
People, hurt people.
Heal people is what she said. She said, hurt
Exactly.
people, hurt people, heal people, heal people.
Exactly. And that to me is sacred because I think the world is suffering. And I said this in my post. I was like, the world is so hurt right now. Like there is so much pain. Like, you know what's funny, Minessa? You and I, it's not funny, but we had talked. It was December of 2019. I was backing out of my driveway. I had the basketball hoop was in front of me. I was backing out of the driveway in the Fiat. And I got on the phone with you and I said, I don't feel right. And I was like, I just have this horrific feeling of dread all the time. And I'm like, I can't shake it. I feel like something bad is coming. Or no, it was shortly after Kobe Bryant died. So it wasn't December. It was end of summer of 2000, whenever Kobe Bryant died, 2019. And you said to me, you were like, God, I feel the same way. You're like,
oh,
what?
Yeah. I remember this conversation where like this was before COVID. And I said, something is coming. I said, something really big is coming.
We were like, is it dad? Like, is it on me? Like, we couldn't figure out why we had this it was overwhelming.
Oh my God. It was so scary. I almost had a breakdown that winter because I didn't know I was just so scared because I knew something really, really bad and really big was coming.
Bad, right? What happened to my
light? I know. I was like,
there we go. I don't know. I think it's
the sun is probably moving.
Yeah. So anyway, the reason I say that is because I was like, the world right now is really sad. And we have an opportunity to change. I'm going to just try and move my camera, see if that helps. Okay. Yeah. We have an opportunity to influence the energies around us and therefore the energies around the people around us to be a source of light, a source of positivity, and I believe in all this stuff. I really do believe the energy we put out into the world, people pick up on that. And we absorb other people's energy. We're all just like little sponges, right? Running around.
You're being to the choir, but I love that analogy.
I did not want to be part of the problem. So my first thing was, I forgive you. You caused me pain, but you know what? You gave me a gift. And the gift that you gave me was, I know my own truth. I know my own life. I know what's going on in my own four walls. I know why I made the choices I made every day. Because to me, it was more important that my children had a safe and beautiful home inside where they lived and breathed every day than it was for me to invest my money and time into making the outside look pretty for the rest of the world. The inside was more important to me. And I made a conscious decision to do that. I made a conscious decision not to do yard work when it was freezing because I knew that because of all the fibro stuff and my physical pain, that it would hurt me and that I would lose weeks of my life just trying to please other people. And I wasn't going to prioritize that. So I made peace with the decisions that I had made and that this was the price I was paying because I can't control other people. So that was the first thing I did is I said, you know what? I am not going to hold on to this. I am going to let it go. Because as Minessa said in the gift she gave me, negativity is boring. And the second thing I did was I said, how do I turn this around into something beautiful for other people? How do I take a horrible thing that happened to me and say, you know what? I'm going to use this as fertilizer. I got shit and I'm going to use it to fertilize my plants to grow green.
Oh my God,
right?
Dude, that analogy is mind-blowingly good.
Well, everything has a purpose, right? And if you believe that, and that's the other thing, right? If you really believe, and I do, that everything in life happens for a reason, right? That there is some larger fabric, tapestry, whatever, that we're all a part of, and there's some beautiful direction in it. Even when things happen that seem bad, something good will come out of it, right?
Yeah.
Eventually. It may not be now, but it will. It will happen. And you got to take whatever life gives you and just say, how do I want to unpack this, right? How do I want to break this out so that it serves me and gives me fulfillment and happiness in life? And I think about all the times I was bullied in high school. All that did was give me Farah, my closest friend who I, love to pieces. And it gave me so much courage and strength to fight for other people who can't fight for themselves. And I think that those were the two things that for me, I feel like were the most important, but definitely the most important was don't become the thing you're rallying against, because I think that's the easiest place to go, is to get so hurt and so mad that you end up lashing out and saying mean things, even if it's someone who deserves it. It's not the point. The point is that you also never know somebody else's pain, right? The same goes the other way. And don't be a hurt person who hurts somebody else because you're hurting. Instead, turn it into fertilizer.
I love, so, like that is so true. Cause like for me, what I started to realize, like, cause when I went through this earlier on, so like I was talking to Pamela yesterday. So Pamela Godboy, sorry, by the way, get back to Pamela about her podcast.
I wrote her left. Yeah,
I was going to say, cause I was on it. It was so amazing. We had the best time ever.
I love Pam. She's amazing.
She's
I told her
so
I'd
funny.
write her.
Guys, the podcast is going to be out. It was a really, really great conversation. We were talking about, she asked what my biggest mistake was, right? And I love the way she views the world. And so I talked about how I didn't pay taxes didn't pay $70,000 in taxes. But as we sort of started to talk it through and like really talk about like how the experience changed me and what it did for my relationship with Alex, I can really pinpoint that as like the catalyst for my relationship with Alex completely transforming into something else. Like that's the moment where it became a partnership as opposed to two people who were married, which is very different, right? So, and it was a beautiful thing. So she said, well, wouldn't you say then that like you not paying taxes was really more of a gift? And I was thinking to myself, yes, it was a gift. And then I look back to mom, right? So my mother died. I'm not telling you this. You know our mother died. Saira, our mother died. Surprise.
I did not know.
So what? So our mom died. And, but from her death came a transformation for both me and Saira that ended up us being, wow, what happened here? My background just totally disappeared. My front ground just totally disappeared. So it, my mom helped to transform us, but with her death, she helped us to like see things differently, learn differently. And over the course of the last, 15, 16 years, Saira and I have become who we are now, which I think has allowed us to have impact on so many other people and help their lives and so on and so forth. But that would never have happened like Correct. Without my mom dying when she did, how she did. I'm sure I would have done other things, but I became who I am because of that experience. And so I think that like you said, I've always believed that there's a reason for everything, but I want to take it one step further and say that like we have to figure out what that reason is. So it's like it's not going to fall in our laps with the reason and be like, here's the thing, here's the reason. Now go and do what you will with this, right? No, it's like here's the thing, you suffer, and then you discern the meaning and how to use it. And that I think, and that is a choice, right? That's like you said, is a choice. And I think that's really, really important. Oh, wow, we're really resonating with a lot of people today. So LaFern says, it was so learning to see that I don't need to respond to others. That's a really big one, I think, that you said, Saira, is you don't have to respond to people even if they deserve it. Like, just because somebody deserves to be punched in the face, like, do you have to be the one to, like, karma will take care of that person. Like, that person will get punched in the face at some point, and you don't have to be involved in it.
Yeah.
So
you have to make it worse. I think that's the thing, right? It's like when something bad happens, you have to consider your own spiritual safety and say to yourself, is whatever action I take going to make me better or worse? And I think a lot of times continuing the argument just makes you feel worse.
Ashley, so Elisa and Ashley both had interesting things to say this. Okay, so Ashley has a question she asks herself. This is a good question. So it is, does this need me to respond, react, or process? Right?
Ooh, I
so
like that.
Actually, I like that a lot. That's a really good question. And then Elisa said that it's from a book, Krista Tippett's book, Becoming Wise, an inquiry into the mystery and art of living. You have your own stories, the dramatic and more ordinary moments where what has gone wrong becomes an opening to more of yourself and part of your gift to the world. This is the beginning of wisdom. So true. This is the beginning of wisdom. But here's the thing, right? So, like, a lot of times I think that we feel like not giving that person what they deserve is us, like, is like allowing yourself to be a pushover or walked all over or whatever. But I think, like, for me, the way that I like to think about it is more like in my day-to-day life, like right at this moment, what makes me feel happy, what makes me feel good and joyful, right? And if in responding to someone with violence, and I mean emotional violence as well, I don't necessarily mean, it doesn't, just with aggression or violence, doesn't make me feel good because I don't feel like I responded in the way that I want to see myself responding, right? Because like for so many years I kept thinking, I don't know, like I don't like who I am. I hated who I was. I don't like who I am. And I just sat and ruminated on like, I don't know, like how to change and why I'm this way and whatever. And then one morning I woke up and I said, oh my God, you know what I can do? I can just think of how the person that I want to be would act and just do that thing, right? Just do the thing that I think that person that I want to be, how would they act? And It took me 3 or 4 years of just consistently thinking, well, what would that person do, right? What would the person that I want to be do? And I think that's really helpful because then you realize, like, do I really want to lose, like, think about the hours that you lose of your life finding the person, getting angry, getting upset. Now your tension is going up, which means your blood pressure is up, which means your health is suffering. And like when you think about the price that you're paying so much more of a price chasing down vengeance than you would if you simply processed it and transmuted that feeling into something good and then let that out into the world, right? Because we're so powerful.
Put it to work for you.
Put it to work for you. Because we're all alchemists. Because like Ashley said, we can respond however we choose to, right? So if somebody comes to you and punches you in the face and then you choose to be like, okay, and then walk away and hug somebody or, you know, give somebody food or whatever, then you've just taken that energy and turned it into something good. Because the second you give that person the money or give that person the food or pay their heating bill or help them, you're going to feel good. You will have forgotten you create your own hell. Oh my God, dude. So true.
Yep.
So true. Marlene says, I don't stick my foot in my mouth first, being honest. I lash out when I say what I'm thinking and it doesn't usually turn out that way. Oh, I see. So you basically, be honest, you lash out when you say what you're thinking. Dude, so Marlene, I also was a lash outer. I lashed out a lot. I did a lot of damage to my relationships. Saira as well. Like she was probably on the receiving end of the lashing out. And I actually, you know, Saira, you're pretty much of a lash outer too, actually. Like we just
not in a long time.
No. That's what I mean. Not in a long. Neither one of us have lashed out.
But definitely before we're very like sensitive and like because we're empathetic. Like I think you just feel things a lot, and so it's just your gut reaction is to be like.
Well, that's why I want to bring it up because both of us were in that place, Marlene, like where we were definitely lash outers, and the things that Saira is so smart. She's very clever, and she can think quicker on her feet than I can. I can think, I can come up with a really great comeback like an hour later. But because of that, our arguments, or when we would have, we had to learn very early on how to argue with each other without damaging each other because we both are so, and then our spouses as well. We had to learn how to do that with them. So I think, Marlene, the thing really is more about for us was not really about like, because like you're saying that your husband's like stop and listen or whatever. And I personally think that like other people telling us how we should behave is not really going to create any sort of change at all. I think the thing that actually creates the change is the question you ask yourself after you do that thing. So let's say I say something to you, you lash out at me. Ask yourself this question: do I feel good about what I just did?
Right. That served me.
I feel right now, right? It doesn't have nothing to do with me or anybody else. It's really just all about you because I want, like, I think that ultimately I want for us, each of us to live joy every minute as much as we can, and I want to help you get there. And then I want to help other people get to joy every minute that they can, right? So the things that we talk about are really more about how can you feel more joy, and then after that, it's your decision, right? Then you're just like, okay, well, I don't want to feel like this, but I also don't want to change that behavior, so I'm just going to go with it, right?
And I also want to say that there's nothing wrong with feeling pain, right? So, like, I mean, in and of itself, like, having this perspective that I have chosen does not mean that I am immune from feeling pain or humiliation or being wounded or hurt just because I'm choosing to take whatever I get and turning it into something that serves me. I still have all those feelings, of course. And those feelings have immense value because it's a process of learning more about yourself. Exactly what I think Elisa said from the Book of Wisdom is that there is power in the pain, right? It's okay to feel those feelings. It's healthy to feel those feelings. What's not healthy is to ruminate on them, right? What's not healthy is to let somebody else's life choices influence you to the point where it's making your soul dark, right? You've got to say, where do you draw the line for yourself? Where do you say, okay, I felt this feeling. I feel it has served me as best as it can. What am I going to do with it now? How am I going to move beyond this? Because if you don't, some of this stuff can linger for a long time. Years. And I think what Minessa and I are really good at, like if somebody asks me, what's your superpower? One of my superpowers is that I can take a really shitty situation, like really shitty, and like a couple of years from now, make it like the best look back story and people laugh about it.
Oh my God. Yes.
And I don't, like the pain just becomes kind of like I had a freaking, a splinter once, right? It becomes more like that. Like it's some kind of amorphous memory that there was pain associated with it because it was.
I just talked about mom dying, right? Pain. Like I talked about mom dying and that was extremely painful.
But instead of focusing on that part of it, we're really good at turning it into something good. Something that either makes you laugh or something that makes you have perspective or something that gives you insight or fulfillment, right? And
Dude,
I think that's
I'm writing a TED Talk right now about that I'm actually submitting on the 31st. Like, that's actually what it is. It's about turning those tragedies into something powerful and good.
Yeah. And I feel, and see, that's the thing. And I think that's to me, what I took from it is like, my community was amazing. Like so many years ago, you know, when I was, nobody came to my birthday party, right?
When I was like 11. The story, not everybody's heard that.
Well, when I was 11, my mom never let us have birthday parties, right?
We were not allowed. Story, right? You're not going to skip over it.
No. We weren't. Well, if I missed something, it would be inadvertent. You can fill it in. We weren't allowed to have birthday parties, and we always were only like Minessa and I had to have a combined party, and we were each allowed to invite like 2 or 3 friends. So it was very, very small. My mom did not believe in like big parties. So one year we moved into a new house, and I begged my mom. I begged her, please, can I have a party for my birthday? Yeah, my 11th birthday. Please, can I have a party for my 11th birthday? And finally she acquiesced and she said, fine. I worked my ass off. She decorated the house. She made a beautiful cake. Like, we were so excited, and no one came. I remember laying in my mom's arms, crying, just like, it was the kind of pain, like, I remember that pain.
Oh my God, like, I remember seeing it from the side. It was awful.
I cried and cried and cried and cried. It was horrible. It was horrible.
I still want to cry for poor 11-year-old.
Please, I'm over it now. But anyway,
I still want to protect you from them.
It's the best story now. So I was just like, I'm never throwing a party again, right? Like, and honestly, to this day, like, it's still like I have trouble throwing parties, so I was afraid no one's gonna come. So one time, I can't remember why I posted about this in my community. I think we were just telling stories about each other, and I posted about how it was like, oh, I know why. It was because people were asking me why I didn't do more open houses for my boutique. And at the time, before. And I said, well, I was like, I have this like phobia. And I explained the whole story, and I laughed about it. It was all very funny. Well, I started doing these resume workshops where I would go into my community because there was a lot of women that were looking for jobs. And I said, well, I have experience in this, and I just had my resume redone. Like, I'm happy to help you. So I would go to my friend's house, and there were a bunch of women would come, and we'd sit and we'd talk about their career goals. And like, it was wonderful. It was so amazing. Like, I loved it. So we do this a couple of times. So then I get a message from the town organizer. She's just, I love her. Her last name's Happy. It could not be the more appropriate name. She's amazing. So she goes, Saira, there's a woman who's really having a resume emergency, and like, she really needs
you were on the call with me. You're like, someone's having a resume emergency. I'm like, what the hell's a resume emergency?
A resume emergency. I'm like, what the fuck is that? So I'm like, sure. I'm like, I'll help. She's like, can you please come over to my house? She's going to come. And I go, well, who is it? She goes, well, she's kind of embarrassed. She doesn't want to tell you. So, and I'm like, okay, well, I'm going to meet her. So whatever. So I'm like, sure, no problem.
It was the weirdest car ride too. While Sarah's
right. And then asking her questions, and she's like, I don't really have the answers, but just come and you can help her. So I'm like, this is so weird. So I'm like, fine. So then I'm on the phone with Minessa, and I'm like nervous, right? Because I'm like, what the hell is going on? Like, this seems like really cryptic. Does this chick work for the CIA or something? Like, what the hell's happening?
She's like, so I get, what if I can't help her with her resume?
I know. I'm like, I feel like I'm so on the spot. So I get to the house, and I'm like, gosh, there's a lot of cars here. I'm like, oh God. I'm like, she didn't tell me I was going to be helping a bunch of people. I'm like, oh God, now I feel so nervous. I'm like, it'll be fine. It'll be fine. Well, the way her house is, I walk around the stairway up to her patio, and there's a ginormous sign that says happy 11th birthday. And these guys, I was like, now I'm going to cry, right? Because that will make me cry. These girls got together. I don't know these people. They got me a pony. They got me cake. And all the gifts were like vintage. They were like 1980s, like Cabbage Patch dolls. And like, I mean, these people went to so much trouble to create an 11th birthday for me. And I'm like, standing there, and I swear, if you had seen my face, it was just shock. Like, I couldn't process what was happening. And then they're like, call your husband and your kids. And I'm like, they're going to think this is the weirdest thing, because I'm at a resume workshop, and I call Butch and I go, hi. I'm like, I'm actually apparently at an 11th birthday party for myself. So can you and the kids come? He's like, what? So they come, and the girls are like, there's a pony. And it was amazing. And thinking back now, that was a horrible experience I had when I was a kid. But I wish my mom was alive, so I could have called her to be like, Mom, you won't believe what happened to me today. She would have loved it. And even though it was such a sad experience for my 11-year-old self, my 37-year-old self was so fulfilled. And it was a moment to be like, the world is a wonderful place filled with a lot of wonderful people. And that's one of the reasons. And because of that 11th party that they threw for me, I felt safe going to them and saying, this happened to me, and I'm in pain, and I need help. And they did exactly what I knew they would, which was offer me whatever they had available, you know? And sometimes it's not, it's just literally saying to somebody, I know you're struggling. I see you. If you need me, I'm here. You've got this. Like, that's it. Like, that is so powerful. There is so much behind those words. But anyway, so that was the story. I'm not sure why we told that, but there you go.
I don't remember either, but it was a really, really good story.
Story.
You know what? We were talking about living in the past, you know, like, I think that, you know, Marlene mentioned that, like, a lot of the reasons why she lashes out is because of her childhood and her youth and her past, and I totally, totally get that. You know, I think for a lot of us, we decide, like, and it's so important for me to really be clear that none of this is about judgment. It's just about your own happiness and what you want to do. And, like, these are just ideas that have worked for us. But I think because you said, Marlene, that, like, you're too old to live there. You mentioned that you're too old to live there. That's something that, like, right now I'm working on with my therapist. Like, I feel like I'm, like, sort of at the end of, like, a really big journey here. In fact, I'm going to talk to my therapist today about switching our appointments to being once every other week instead of once a week, because I think I'm really, in a really good place. But I'm working, like, there are some traumas, like Saira was talking about being bullied, and, you know, I had a lot of racial trauma growing up from my bullying. I don't know if Saira's trauma was racially related, because, like, we have different skin colors, so I also wasn't there for your high school, you know, time.
They called you Gordy, you know, like, that's...
You know? They called me so much worse than that. They used to call me a slut. Oh my God, I remember being in 7th grade and being told that, like, Miss Mitchell pulling me into a classroom asking me if I was pregnant. And she said there was a rumor that I was pregnant, and I'm like, what are you talking about? I'm like, 11 years old? Like, what are you talking about?
Yeah.
Right? But it's like, but I think that, like, for me, the real thing is like, Marlene, as you said, I started to become, Tom Hiddleston said this. I saw this on Instagram yesterday. He said, you have 2 lives. Your second life starts when you realize that you only have one. And I thought that was really powerful, because that was really when my second life started, was when I realized that the time that I had on this earth was finite, and I really had to think about how I wanted to feel and what I wanted to experience during my time here. And, like, I think that one of the things that, Saira, you or I have, and I'm only starting to notice this right now as a result of this conversation, but I think that what's happened for both of us over the last couple of years is that we have gotten really focused on our own journey. Like, whatever our journey, whatever Saira Valley's journey is, and the little pod that you call your people in your house, right? That journey, and whatever people that you've added to it, that's the journey, right? But more importantly, it's just Saira's journey, right? It's Saira's journey, and we become really focused on our own journeys and how we want to show up, and, like, nestling into that space and spending less time on the outside and on other people. And I think that that work has been very helpful. And working with my therapist, you know, we have really been talking about some of these things, because I don't want to live in that space anymore. I don't want 44-year-old Minessa to have the damage still of, like, we talked about my ADHD and how, like, everybody always thought, oh, Minessa would be so good if she just applied herself. And the big secret was that I was applying myself. I just didn't. Right. You know, like, wow, if you guys find out that I'm actually applying myself, you're going to realize I'm just an idiot. Right. Yeah. Like, I didn't have to bring that with me. And then the second I was diagnosed with ADHD, I realized that I was never stupid. The entire 40 years behind me that I had been trying to prove that I was not stupid, I was trying to prove something that was self-evident, right? And I think of all the effort and energy that I wasted, and it made me really think about how much of my life has been spent in an effort to please other people, in an effort to punish other people, in an effort to make other people see. Like, it's always been about other people instead of just living here in me. And I've heard the same thing in the last couple of weeks lately. Everybody keeps saying I'm so authentic. You're so authentic. You live in this real space and you're so authentic. And, like, and I appreciate that. I'm like, I guess I am authentic. But that's not what I'm trying to do. What I'm trying to do is just really ask myself the questions and be honest with myself about the answers. And the problem is if I don't like the answers, there's only one place to go. Like, I can't lash out. Right. And I think that's really the key thing, is that by not lashing out at my inner self when I have these things, like workshopping on becoming friendly with myself and developing that relationship, I think that was really helpful, because, you know, I think that allowed me to feel more. First, it taught me not to lash out. Right. I learned how to not lash out. But also, I'm now able to just focus on this and really just experience my life and enjoy it, you know, over time, because I'm thinking about me and my experience, not what can I do for, to, about, with, you know, at that other person or that other thing.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Well, we are out of time, sister.
We're out of time. Okay, so guys, oh my God. Ashley said that she believes that mom helped create this for us, and that inner child work is so powerful. Absolutely. And that's what I want to sort of leave you guys with, is that we're going to have good things happen to you. You're going to have bad things happen to you. And how you want to deal with it is it's totally fine, whatever your choice is. However, the question that I want to encourage you to ask yourself after you do whatever it is you're going to do is, do I like how I feel now? And if you do, then you did the right thing for yourself. But if you don't, that gives you the opportunity to make a different choice.
Yes. If you're in the squad, we have office hours today at 2 p.m.
We do.
This is Coach.
And Saira and I are going to have our first team meeting with my business manager today. So that's going to be wicked
Oh,
fun.
yeah. What time is that? Because it's right now, right? At 11?
I think it's at 11. One thing I want to leave you guys with is, listen, I have put our podcast up for, I've actually, and Saira, this is for you too. I have submitted for a $5,000 grant for podcasting, where basically
right, you need references.
Yeah, I need people to tell them how much that you love me and how great I am and how I've changed your life, and just say all the things that are wonderful about me. So if you would go to the business page, there is a link there. We will be posting it over the next, we have a couple of days to just keep posting it. So we're gonna keep posting it. Just leave a love letter for me and just basically tell them how amazing the podcast is, because with the $5,000, I want to take the Stop Shitting All Over Yourself podcast to sort of like the next level. Hire somebody to do the graphics, hire somebody to do the audio, just sort of really just bring it, tighten it up a little bit, and then maybe bring some guests on. All right.
So can you send me, are we meeting on this Zoom at 11? Just because for some reason I don't have anything on my calendar.
Okay, I can send you that so everybody gets to be a part of it.
I don't need it. Are we meeting on this Zoom, Zoom?
It's at noon. It's at noon, and you are on the calendar. I sent it to you.
It's not showing up.
SB at Saira Valley. I'll send it to direct, so send it to the right one.
That's fine. But anyway, we're meeting at noon on your Zoom, right? That's all I need to know.
Meeting, and the link will be in the thing. Guys, are you loving this? There, I just sent it to you right now. The link and everything. All right guys.